Welcome to the How to Farm series. My name is Cole the Cornstar. I am a 26-year-old farmer who farms 2,000 acres of corn and soybeans. Over the next year, I will be documenting everything that happens on Cornstar farms in an effort to show what it takes to feed the world. If you wish to start the series from the beginning, watch my How to Farm playlist. In the last episode, we finished spring tillage, pre-emergent spraying, and planting our corn and soybeans. In today's episode, we will be scouting fields, controlling weeds, making grain marketing decisions, and tackling anything else that gets in the way. Our season expenses so far are $927,900, and the farm has not produced any income yet. If you are new to the channel, subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on any of this series, and be sure to head to cornstar.farm or visit the link in the description to pick up a Cornstar Farm shirt. Thank you for tuning in for the day, so let's get started. Oh, good morning, everybody. We are out for some drive arounds, looking at some fields, just kind of evaluating crop conditions right now. I have some good news. Good news is our crops are up. You can row it. This is a bean field right here. This is the first soybean field that we actually planted. It's looking really good. The other good news I have is that grain markets are up right now, but I also have some not as good of news. Last night we got some rain, and as you can see, we got some standing water out in the field. That's not very ideal, and neither is the fact that, normally that creek is about 5 feet wide. Yeah, she's way out. We got a lot of flooding going on. You can see where the entire ditch is completely full of water right now, and you got these old floating corn stalks. It floated right across the road here. It actually started to eat the road out, so this morning we had water coming across the road. Not ideal. And that's not good, like, at all. I mean, like, literally our crops underneath that are drowning right now. Oh my goodness, that is a long earthworm. Jeez, hey, there's another one right here. Hey, you guys are in the middle of the road. Not a good place to be. It's probably not a good place to be out there either. I don't blame you. To be honest, there is 3 things that bother me about this more than anything. First thing is, we just got this creek line fixed. Ron, the bulldozer guy, came out. He had a bunch of smoothing. He was out here for like a week. And then once he was done, we spent an entire day picking up all the sticks, the logs, the roots, the rocks, the everything that got exposed by the bulldozer. And then we just got everything grass seeded. And then now we're probably gonna have to reseed all that, and we may have to do some reshaping again, depending on what kind of erosion we get from this water. Number 2, we do have some soil erosion from this rain. You can see a little spot right there up on the hill. That spot, that kind of got eaten out a little bit by the water. That's a pretty minor example. The bigger the hill, basically the more soil erosion we are going to have. And then last but not least, this is Mount Everest right here. This big water hole, well, the creek's kind of breaking through right there, and it floods this entire area. That yield in this spot is probably going to be about half of what it should be. And then you go past that water line about 100 feet, that's also going to be sogged out too. And then over on the Hanson farm, we have the exact same thing. This is going to get severely drowned out. Same thing with the yield there. And then over here on the field around Dad's house. So that's kind of a bummer. And this goes literally the entire mile across. We farm both sides of this creek, the entire mile. So we have this for a whole mile and then a half mile that direction as well. So a lot of crop damage from this. Definitely not ideal. And looking out there, it looks like we got some sticks that floated in. Those are small ones, but that big guy, he floated in from somewhere, so we're gonna have to get him picked up. There's probably a few more, a few more over there. Not the end of the world, but we're definitely gonna have some stuff that washes in. Looking on the bright side of this, the only ground that we have that has a creek running through it like this, or one that is going to be flooded this much, Bush Farm, Hanson Farm, field around Dad's house, and Mount Everest, which is all of the fields down here. All of our other farms are pretty much perched up on top of high areas, nice rolly ground where all the water kind of runs off everything, so we shouldn't really have to worry about these flooding spots on any other farm. Well, I take that back. Tabletop may be an issue. We call it tabletop because it's flat, and there are a couple puddle areas that are probably going to pond up. So I guess let's go take a look at tabletop quick and evaluate the situation And then there's not really too much we can do until things kind of start to dry up a little bit. And I believe they're talking more rain later this afternoon and potentially more in a couple days. So hopefully that stays on the light side, but we'll see what we get. We haven't had rains like this in a long time. I believe we got 3 inches last night and we got 2 inches the day before that. And we've had probably 5 inches already this month and 5 inches the month before that. So we're full on water already. And so now when we get rain, it doesn't really sink into the ground. It just runs into our waterways and floods things like this. This is a prime example of why we take the low areas of the field. So we call this a draw, and then we plant grass into them. So this is a waterway. You can see this one's relatively new seeded. You can see the rows of the drill. This one, we thought that was the low spot, but apparently when it floods, it goes a little wider on that side and the water is flowing on this side. So we're definitely going to need to make some revisions to this waterway. The roots on that grass, it holds the soil in place. But over here where we just have field, that is going to be exposed to a little bit of erosion. But check this out. It runs underneath the road, and then we have a culvert going under the road. So there's a big old pipe, and then that allows the water to go from there. And as you can see, we had a little bit of flooding. It actually came across the driveway right here, and then that pipe runs underneath the road to the other side. Bunch of water coming out through there right now, but we have this big old waterway, and this thing is doing its job right now. It's holding all that soil in place, that grass is, and so the water's just flowing right on top of this grass. It's just gonna run all the way down there to the creek. Forecast was calling for more rain, like in the middle of the night, and I guess it started to rain here again. We barely made it back into the vehicle, ran up to the house, threw some stuff inside that could blow away, because I guess they are talking 60 to 90 mile per hour winds. Last time we had 90 mile per hour winds, our old bin site blew down and we lost half the roof on our big machine shed. So, yeah, I guess we have more flooding coming now. Yeah, it's coming down pretty good. The roads are turning into rivers, and if we look out, this is Grandpa's farm. Our waterways, you can see all the water running down them right there. That is also turning into a river. Look at this, water was coming over the road. This is tabletop on the right side, but it came over, it completely washed away the driveway that was around that culvert. That thing is now floating 18 inches in the air. This is not good. Holy cow. Look at all that water out there. This is running. On the right side of us, we have Lake Tabletop. There is a lot of standing water out there right now. Just beyond what we can see, there's actually a big standing pond out there. Same with around the wind turbine here. I'm parked beside this wind turbine right now, and the rain's hitting that, so it's not obliterating me. But welcome to Lake Tabletop. It is wet, wet, wet over here. Now check this out. Once we get out from under the wind turbine, there's the rain. Yeah, we got a lot of water over here though. They're talking more rain coming, so we are definitely looking at some flood damage here. This weather is weird. We just got an inch of flash rain that wasn't supposed to hit until later this evening, but all of a sudden now it is sunny again, so we will assess some field damages later. But that was the bad news. The good news is, like I said, grain markets are up. So I'm actually now at the dryer shack, and we have a grain marketing meeting.
Hey!
Hi.
How are we doing?
We got a grain marketing meeting today?
Isn't that why Kristen's here?
I'm here to pet your dog.
Yeah.
That almost bit my head off.
We got done with our grain marketing meeting with Kristen. I will go over what we learned and discovered there and what kind of our plan of attack is and is going to continue to be for the rest of the season. But before we do that, a week has actually passed since the meeting with Kristen, and the rain has finally lightened up. We have about a 12-hour window before the next rain comes. We are going to try to head out to the field right now, and we're going to try to spray some corn. Got Dad filled up, so he's ready to go, and then we're filling up the other sprayer too. Okie dokie, we got everything full. We are ready to rock and roll. Now the ground is pretty soft in some select areas, especially the lower wet spots. So we are only doing 750 gallons on the sprayers instead of 1,000. So that way we can lighten up a little bit. So we're running 75% loads. We're gonna see how this goes. We don't wanna run up the field, and most importantly, we do not want to get a sprayer stuck. And Cooper is gonna be running around. He's gonna keep the water and the product to us, so that way we do not have to road, and this is gonna save us a ton of time. Dad is going to be getting started on tabletop, and then I am heading just another mile down the road to Kristen and Rusty's. We have 1,000 acres of corn to spray between both machines. Actual runtime, we should be able to do about 150 acres per hour. If we have a really good running day today, we're gonna get done, but we'll see where we get. The goal is 1,000, but if we get 700, we get 700, and it is what it is. We're gonna do as much as we can with the time we have, and with what the conditions allow us to do. We're unfolding now. We got the monitor all set up. We're gonna kick our pumps on with all these switches down here in just a minute. Dad and I did go driving around this morning before we got started, just to make sure that everything looks okay. We definitely did notice a couple side hill seeps. So in other words, if we see a spot that looks wet, stay out of it because it is wet. Monitor, we're gonna switch fields if it'll load here. Field. Okay, there we go. Bills and Rusties. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. We want nothing to do with that spot right there. We're gonna stay out of that. And unfortunately, weeds are going to grow in it, but what's a guy gonna do? I'm not getting the sprayer stuck in there. Just got our first batch off. We got 50 acres done, so just kind of getting things outlined up a little bit. And Cooper is now pulling in to keep me going. This is so nice. Normally I'd have to road down all the way to the main farm, so I'd be like 2 miles there, 2 miles back, which is not the end of the world, but when you're going 20 miles an hour, it takes time. This literally makes us twice as fast. This is what I'm going to be doing all day. I basically need to make sure that little yellow light is staying right between the rows. Then I need to make sure that the tips of my booms are not dragging down in the ground. And then I also need to make sure that all of my nozzles are spraying and that everything is working on the sprayer and we don't have oil dripping anywhere or anything, and just we're making sure everything's working and we're driving back and forth, and we're gonna try not to get stuck. We got a special treat today. We got Sub City, baby. Cooper's filling me up while we're up here. Oh, and hi, Les.
Hi there.
That was Les, our banker, and he had some exciting news. Well, bittersweet news. He said he's retiring at the end of the year, and I've known Les pretty much my whole life. I worked with my grandpa, and he's done a lot to help the farm, especially during tough years. They really stuck out their neck for us a lot, and we really appreciate that. So we are going to miss Les. But it's exciting that he's retiring, because he can go do whatever he wants whenever he wants to do it. And also, the other good news is I pretty much all have bills done here, but I literally have like 50 gallons I need to spray. And I thought I was going to be done here, so I had to semi-move on to the next field. So I'm going to have to road 50 gallons back here. Hello, this is me 2 seconds later, but it's actually been about 30 minutes. I ended up driving down the road to Melvin's, which is 3 miles from where I am. I got filled up by Cooper. I drove back here. I got the rest of Bill's done, the last 50 gallons that I needed to put off, and I don't know how to change this from being dark green. It must have updated or something. It used to be a bright green, now it's dark green. It's kind of hard to see. But now that we got done here, we just have Winona's, north side of Mary Lou's, south side of Mary Lou's, Carroll's, and Melvin's. Dad is working on Melvin's right now, so I'm going to go to the north side of Mary Lou's and the CRP chunk at Mary Lou's, which the CRP chunk's on the south side. It's just kind of... You'll see when I get there. Oh, welcome to Mary Lou's. See, I got that big waterway down at the bottom of the hill, that big grass strip. Well, that baby's got standing water in it. You can see it right down there. So all of this waterway we cannot drive through. So this is what we call the CRP section. So see how it's blocked off from over here since we can't cross. So I'm just gonna do all this CRP section, and then I'm also going to do the north side of the road, which is this field right here. And then when Dad gets here, then he'll work on the big part, which goes all the way back there. But this is a whole bunch of turning around and weird little tiny corners and triangles and a couple side hills that are, yeah, you want to go a little slower on. So this is probably going to take me twice as long as it should, just because of the lay of the field. It's pretty hilly. Then once I get done here, I'm hoping I can get done with Winona's. I don't think we're going to get to Carroll's tonight, but if the rain holds off in the morning, we should be able to get Carroll's done, which is 110 acres, which we can get done in like an hour and 30 minutes. So hopefully we're gonna move through this. CRP chunk's done. I apologize, I have been spraying and I got really busy and Dad came into the field and our monitors are not syncing together, so we were trying to figure out who did what and where we needed to go. So basically, I did way down there and I did up here and Dad did everything in the middle. Long story short, we just have Winona's and Carol's left. We got 830 acres done today, which is the most we've ever done by like 400 acres. Oh, welcome to the main heated shop. No, probably the craziest part about us doing 800 acres today is the fact that we didn't even get started until 10:30 in the morning. So from 10:30 to 9:30, 800 acres. Just imagine if we got started at 7. We would have got done. Buenos dias, it's 10 hours later. We are going to get some product loaded up on the sprayer. We ran empty in a couple totes. We're gonna flop two of them around, and then we're gonna get done spraying today. Cooper and I right now are pulling the old sit at the end of the driveway and wait for Dad. There he is. Pulling up right now. Red truck to the rescue. That's how you know when people are waiting for you, when they're sitting at the end of the driveway ready to pull out. We're on the road now. We're sitting back here in the sleeper. It's always kind of fun to look in these cabinets. We've never used the sleeper for what it's supposed to be used for. Well, you take a nap here when you're in the field, or maybe back when we used to haul corn. If you were in line, you'd lay back here if they had a breakdown, but otherwise I just use it as a place to ride when we're going to the field. Does it feel weird that normally this takes us a week to do and we'll be done in 2 days?
Nice thing is, don't feel like you're wore out the driver of the sprayer.
We checked the antifreeze, that is good. We checked the oil, that is good. We are 100% ready to rock and roll. Let's fire this bad boy up. Here we go. We're gonna wait for the thing to tell us we can start it. Come on. Come on. Fire up our monitor so that bad boy can be loaded while we're driving down the road. I am headed to Winona's. There's 75 acres there. And Dad is headed to Carol's. There's 105 acres there. So last two fields. So this is Winona's farm, and we got about 74 acres or so. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 little separate pieces, all separated by waterways. Could potentially be some pretty decent wet spots here. We're gonna keep our eye out, and if they're there, we're just gonna go around them. For whatever reason, I'm running into some problems where I map for a few feet, and then it stops mapping, and then it maps, and then it stops, and then I got to the end, and I turned around, it mapped initially, and then it just completely did not map the rest of the pass. I'm gonna get out and unplug some wires. I think it has something to do with my flow meter, but really that's all I can do. I think we put 2 new flow meters on this sprayer last year. Maybe it was the other one. But it's spraying, so I know it's pumping stuff. It's just something's not sending a signal from down there up to here saying, hey, you are spraying. So we're gonna go try to diagnose. This is nice. We have full service here right along the side of the highway. Cooper's getting us hooked up. He's gonna put 720 gallons on us. Looking at the field, I added up that little area, that little area, that little area. It's 38 acres. I cannot get the mapping to work. I called Pete Youngblood and he thinks our flow meter is bad, but we don't really want to wait for parts to come in on a flow meter because there's literally 38 acres left over here. So what we are going to do, our auto steer still works. So I'm gonna set a guidance line. And so I at least have a line that I can follow on my GPS. And then we're driving straight down the road so I can see wheel tracks so I know if I've been there or not. And then I have it set on a manual speed setting of 10 miles per hour. And just from experience of running, I know I'm running 45 PSI at 10 miles per hour. So I just have the boom set for 45 PSI. And we just kind of have to guess where we need to shut things off on the ends. And otherwise, we're basically doing this old school style. Once Cooper puts this on me, then he's going to turn the semi-trailer around and he is going to head about 10 miles that direction. And Dad should be at Carol's by now. And then Dad is going to get the last of Carol's done. And then hopefully we don't have any problems with that sprayer. Then we will be completely done with spraying corn. I'll be able to get the flow meter, which is that thing sitting right there. I'll be able to get a new one on this sprayer, get everything cleaned up, rinse through, and then we will get everything prepared to spray beans. Let me translate this over into English really quick. That is my pump pressure right there. I simply just got that bad boy cranked up to 50 pounds, so there's always 50 PSI of pressure going out of the booms. That is still letting product through, so it's not completely broken. It's just not saying that it's on or not. So we put 50 pounds through the boom. Once we had the boom going, then I came to the monitor and I simply just set an auto steer line. So this dark red line is my auto steer line, and that gave me a reference point. So I could just follow the rows right across the field. That is where my auto steer line was. So then when I got to the end, I don't know what's been sprayed or not, because this is what my mapping pattern looks like. It's supposed to look like that, where it's just all dark. But since it wasn't reliable and going off and on here, we couldn't use it. So I'd get all the way to the end, and then I'd turn around, and then I'd follow this dark line back. And that allowed me to go back and forth. And my swath control, which is when I get into the areas that I've already outlined, when I get into the green part, my boom is supposed to shut off in 15-foot sections. But since we weren't mapping, that wasn't working. So I simply just had to do the edge of the field by hand, and I just sprayed right to where the rows turn 90 degrees perpendicularly. So when I was going on these long rows, as soon as I hit where the rows changed, I knew that had already been sprayed, and then I would just shut things off manually. So I could do the whole boom at once with this green button, or I could do it in 15-foot sections right here with these switches. So if I was straight on with it, coming up at a 90-degree angle, you can just click that. But if you're coming in at an angle, then you use these. So it's not ideal. We definitely oversprayed some, but the good news is we are now completely done.
I just jumped in cold sprayer, gonna flush everything out, flush the booms out. We got done spraying corn today, so that's a nice feeling. I'm going to get things finished up here, and I'm gonna call it a night, go home and eat and relax. But I just wanted to say hi to everybody, so it's sure nice talking to you guys. I miss you guys. I always enjoy seeing everybody. Talk to you later. I know some people reading the comments on Cole's channel. Why do you guys got two Hagee sprayers? Can't you get by with one sprayer? Pretty simple. Well, I shouldn't say pretty simple, but one reason is the one machine has done a lot of work. And we kind of worry about if something breaks down, you know, even for a day or two, that is time that maybe a short window to spray. So when we seen this sprayer here, it came from a really, really good home. It's a little dirty right now from spraying, but it's a clean machine. We could get that one bought at a fairly reasonable price. And we knew we probably couldn't get a whole lot out of the second sprayer, our older one, but it's still a good machine. But like some days we may only have 4 hours to spray due to the wind, or like today they're talking rain tonight. And with as wet as it's been, our window might be pretty short for spraying, and if them weeds start, that can be pretty costly on our crop. So with two sprayers, we can get out there, buzz right along, and the nice thing is you don't feel like you're being pushed. We can take a good timely manner, get it done right, and if something happens to break on one machine or something, we can keep going with the other machine. So that's kind of the reason we have two machines. We were looking at buying a newer one. Well, this machine here is a 2005, so no chicken spring, but a very, very good machine. But when we're looking at the newer machines, oh, them things are horrible price, horrible price. You might be talking $250,000 or above. So we could have 3 of them machines compared to a newer one. So that's kind of the reason we did that. I know it looks crazy. Sometimes you look across the fence, why is the neighbor doing this and that? But each guy has to look at his own operation, and we feel if the weeds get ahead of us in the field, which before we had this other sprayer, I guess we've had this one for 2 years, Cole or whoever was running the sprayers was going almost crazy. You were in it all the time, then you get rain or wind, you were falling behind. So now we're trying to do a better job on our farm is what we're trying to do.
Now that we got everything done on the corn, and Dad has gotten all the sprayers rinsed out, everything cleaned up, he got all that stuff power washed, and then he also got things flipped around on the semi-trailer for the sprayers. So now we are ready to head into some bean fields and start spraying some beans. So Dad is already spraying. He's already done the field right outside the house here. I'm in the other sprayer. We're gonna get things fired up, and then we are going to get started, well, right on the other side of the wall here. We're going over to the bush farm. I just got the sprayer filled up. Dad is right over there on Mount Everest, and then I am going to be going right over here, right up on the hillside there. We're going to the bush farm. Now, unfortunately, there's a creek that runs right through here. So I have to go a mile that way, take the mile over, and go right on top of that hill by those trees. So I have a 3-mile trip to go right there. But that's where we're going. With all the rain that we've got, we are getting attacked by all these little black biting gnats. When you're out filling the sprayer, holy cow, they just swarm your face and they bite and they itch, and I feel like there's a couple flying around the cab inside right now. They better look out though, because got a quick hand. The field we are in right now, everything we are seeing between the rows that looks like a weed, that is actually volunteer corn from last year. So this field would have got smacked with some pretty heavy winds during the middle of last year's growing season. So we had a lot of corn knocked down. Then when we came in and harvested it, some of it fell to the ground. And so all that volunteer corn we are seeing between the rows is what fell to the ground, and it planted itself, and now it is growing in the bean field. So we are taking care of that right now. And then if we got out there and we looked really close, we have little baby weeds just coming up out of the ground. We are also taking care of those. So we are on some nice long rows right now, which is the only reason why I am able to even film. I have to do all the steering, so I'm keeping that little thing right there with the little yellow light on top of it right between the row, and it constantly moves around, so I am doing a lot of steering control. And then normally I would have my hand over there on the hydrostat, so that way I can control my speed and my boom height, but we're pretty consistent right now, so I'm able to get away with one hand. But this is a both eyes, both hands, sometimes both your feet job. You're doing a lot, paying attention to a lot. After about 2 hours, we're back here at the main heated shop, but we got most of the bush farm done. We just got that real little bit left, and then I ran out of spray. And then also, you can tell me by the trash can right now, but the wind picked up. We got something squirting something right there. Right on the side of the pump, are you kidding me? Okay. Well, the good news is, the wind has died down because a couple days has passed. The bad news is you saw that little leak that's coming right out of the side of the pump on the sprayer. Now, fun fact, if you order one of those through John Deere, it is like $1,900 more expensive than if you just order it through like a pump store. And also the good news is we knew that pump was going out because it was leaking oil in it, so we already have one on order. So we're going to be replacing that pump. That's the only reason why I know what the cost of it is. But it's not here yet. So I guess we're just gonna have to deal with the drip for today. But we're back on spraying. We have 300 acres sprayed, 700 acres to go. If we have a really, really, really good day today, we will get done. But it is just Dad and I, because Cooper is off doing his own hay stuff, which is his separate business. So if Dad and I can keep things going, we will get done spraying beans today. If not, we will get done tomorrow. But we're gonna try our best. So I am off to continue where I got winded out in the field the other day. I just noticed this. The wind came through this field really bad last year. We had a lot of wind damage. But over here we had one type of corn, then we split our planter, and then we had another type of corn. That corn over there handled the wind so much better. Look how much volunteer corn is not right there. But then look how much volunteer corn is right here. And you can see it right to the line. And there's a clean spot over there where the other corn was. And then you can see where the stuff that did not handle the wind as good was. So that's kind of fascinating. And also, I just whipped in here real quick. I basically did a down, back, down, and we now have the bush farm done. Dad has this field, which is the field around his house, done. He has Everest, which is right here. This is all done. And so now he is working over here on the Hansen farm, and he's got it about halfway done. He's basically got like this shark fin left. And then we'll be completely done with all the fields down around Dad's house. Hello, Lvov.
That's not a good way to talk to a man.
In order to get started in the next field, we needed to get the semi. So Roman just came and dropped me off. Make sure we're in the right gear here. And we are going to bring this over. Then we will not have to row the sprayers down the road, which is a massive time savings when we can just pull up to the sprayer. Hey sprayer, I'm back. I've apologized about this before and I apologize about this again. It is so hard to film while spraying because you have to use both hands pretty much the entire time and you're constantly on the lookout for things. So it is just so hard to film. But good news is, I think I've now got, I wanted to say 4 loads off today. 3 for sure. Dad got 1 off this morning. And then that pump that was leaking on his, yeah, that got even worse. And then come to find out, it came in the mail and we had it sitting in the entryway and we didn't even know it. Dad and Cooper are trying to put that on right now. But the way the pump connects up to the sprayer is different than what we have. So they're trying to get that figured out. But now I have this trailer empty. So I'm going to pump some of this water out of this 5,000 gallon tank into the sprayer. And I decided I felt a little not farmy-ish. So I upgraded and got a hat on. Now before I can fill this, I actually need to wait here for just a minute because this is well water that we pumped up into here. So this tank will fill the front and it'll fill the back. These are 2,600 gallon tanks. We put about 2,500 gallons in each of them. This holds 5,000. I need to put some muriatic acid in there. This is the stuff that we get. We just get it from Menards. It's like $6 for a gallon. With the stuff that we spray on, it works better when it's within a certain pH range or a certain acidity. Well, our water's up here and we want it to be down here so that way the stuff we spray is more effective. So we address the pH with this muriatic acid and I am completely out of it. Well, I got some when I was at Menards the other day, but I'm waiting for Dad to bring me some because I left it in the truck that they have over at the main heated shop. So once he gets here, we will fill this sprayer up, or the trailer, and then we will get back to it. So this is the pump that was off. Now, the problem that we're running into, this pump has a flange right there on the end, so that little lip piece that sticks up. The new one was just straight, so that's why this wasn't going to work. But if you look right there, that little hole, that little black dot, that is where everything is leaking out of. That is literally the problem. So how that thing formed, we don't know, but that pump is junk and we need to get a new one. Through a series of events that I cannot even make up, holy cow, a lot has happened and I captured absolutely zero of it because my camera was completely full of storage, so I could not record. So first things first, as we can see by the grass that is blowing in the wind, it is too windy to spray, so that is why I'm not spraying right now. And also there's another reason, but I'll get to that here in a second. So on Dad's sprayer, the thing that was leaking was this big pump. It looks like a turbo, but this is our solution pump. So it's what takes the product that's in the tank and then it goes through some lines and it gets up to this pump. And then this pump pushes it forward and it brings it down into the boom. So it's what causes the actual stuff to come out of the boom. So on the new one that they got, I guess there is 2 of them. And the only difference between them is one has a dash in its serial number and the other one does not. So we have the one that has the dash. The dash means that it has a flange fitting. So this end part right here, that is the flange. The one without the dash does not have a flange. It's just a straight. Well, for whatever reason, when we ordered one, we ordered the one that did not have the dash. So it did not have flanges. It had the straight one. Our sprayers have the flange, so it wasn't going to work. So Dad calls up the sprayer store and he tells them, and they're like, you are never gonna believe this. You must have got shipped the wrong pump because right after you, someone came in and ordered the exact same thing, except his sprayer does not have flanges, and he got sent one that has flanges. So Dad ran up to the sprayer store, he grabbed the correct pump, he left the one that we did not need so the other guy could take that one, and Dad's all excited. He goes home, he climbs up the ladder, and he goes to put the pump on the sprayer, and then all of a sudden the ladder falls out from underneath Dad and he dropped the pump and it snapped the flange off. So we got all of this now brand spanking new, but right here at the very end is snapped. So now unfortunately we're gonna have to order a brand new pump for a brand new housing in order for us to use the other sprayer. So we are going to have to finish the rest of our soybean spraying with this sprayer. Now the problem is I am also having some issues with this sprayer. It's just mine are not as simple. On the last load I was running, I just got to the end of the field. I ran out of spray, so I'm driving back to the driveway, just getting ready to fold up, and I'm about 100 yards away from the road. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. The parking brake just would kick on, and it would kick off, and then it would kick on, and kick off, and kick on, and kick off. Now, a couple years ago, I had one of the big wheel bearings down here blow out on me, and it nearly stopped me in the middle of the road when I was doing 30 miles an hour, so I always wear my seatbelt now. So fortunately, I had that on, so I was A-okay. but the sprayer just stopped. Right in spot. I could not do anything. Hydrostat did not work. I couldn't even throttle it up. Nothing would work. So I ended up sitting there for a few minutes, turned it off, waited, turned it on, back, forth, nothing. Then eventually I just kept like trying to go back. I could get it to back up a foot, then it would stop. Then I got to back up 2 feet, then it would stop. And then all of a sudden I could get it to back up and I could get it to drive forward. But my throttle did not work whatsoever. I had stuff up here beeping at me, giving me all sorts of codes and stuff. So I limped it home in idle at 4.4 miles per hour. It took me 15 minutes to drive like a half of a mile, plus the little bit I was in the field. So that was a little bit of annoying, but I have absolutely no idea what is going on with this spray right now because I cannot spray in idle. Actually, you know what? It's been sitting for a little while. Let's just see if we can get it to throttle up. Oh, that's what it was giving me last night, whatever that means. Number 2, that was doing that too, and it was doing that. Ooh, chassis 1 offline. Okay. The good news is it started. But throttle up? No. See? It should be going. Yeah, there's something going on. So I don't really know what we're gonna do because this sprayer pump works perfectly fine. We just can't drive. And the other sprayer can drive, but it can't pump. Honestly, if we get down into a really big pinch, what we could probably do is just take this pump off of this one, put it on the other sprayer, and then when the new pump comes in, then we'll just put it on this one, so then we'd be able to spray because they both have the same pump. So that might actually just work. Now, I don't know why I didn't think of this in the first place, but I texted Jordan, our Haggy mechanic, asking if he had any ideas, and he said, why don't you take the module off of the sprayer that has the bad pump and put that module on the sprayer that has the good pump, but is giving you module readings. So we're gonna try to swap the modules, and if that works, then the sprayer should work. So that is the module right there. We are simply just gonna take this and we are going to put it right up underneath there. It's right underneath the stairs. Okay, moment of truth. We got it on. Start the engine. Okay, now when we hit this, it should throttle up when I hit it upward. Okay, we are back in business. But before we go finish spraying, I want to talk about the marketing meeting that we had with Kristen. When we started farming for the year, we laid down the average production history for corn and soybeans for Cornstar Farm. So it's 196 bushels per acre for corn and 56 bushels per acre for soybeans. What this allows us to do is take our average yields and then multiply that by the amount of acres we have of corn and the amount of acres we have of soybeans. And then that tells us what our total amount of corn bushels on average are going to be and our total amount of soybean bushels. Here's where farming gets tricky because those are just average yields. On an average year, we could have yields that are better, we could have yields that are worse. But when we started the year, we went in with a projection on what our averages are because we have no idea what kind of crop we are actually going to raise. The only thing we can really base anything on is averages. So the reason why we came up with this is because we wanted to use these numbers to help project how much money the farm was going to make. So now that we have the actual production numbers, we need to come up with the price. So what we used was the future December price. Now we can deliver in October. Why they base it off December and you can deliver in October, I have no idea. But that has a $4.46 per bushel price for corn and an $11.21 per bushel price for soybeans. So multiplied by our total production, or our average total production, that brings us up to that much revenue for corn and that much revenue for soybeans, and a $1,502,000 total revenue off of all of our crops. Now here's where we ran into a real kicker. We projected expenses of over $2 million, which put us in a projected loss of $525,080. Here's the hardest part about farming. Is $4.46 a good price for corn and $11.21 a good price for soybeans? Should we be making all of our sales right now, several months before those December future prices? Because what if December rolls around and corn's $3.50 and beans are $9? then we'd be kicking ourselves as to why we did not make sales ahead of time when we had the opportunity. Because we can buy contracts today for several months in the future. We can buy those future positions, and then we are guaranteed that sale. We have struggled with this for a really long time until we came across EverAg, which is our marketing service that is who Kristen works for. And it has been an absolute game changer. And let me show you what Kristen has allowed us to be able to do, or what positions she's put us in. When we make grain sales, there is really two different types of sales. We can make a cash sale, which is a right here, right now, we're driving by the place that buys grain and they have a big sign out front. There's not actually a sign out front, but just imagine they had a sign out front that had the cash price for today of what corn is and what soybean is. We whip in there, we can deliver our grain, and they would give us the money right there on the spot for that price. So that is the first way that we can sell our grain. The second way we can sell our grain is through contracts. So let's say it is June and we are looking at the December price. We can actually make a contract sale for December, so we are guaranteed that December price, even though it's June, but we lock it in here and we don't know what's gonna happen between here. What if the price goes way up and we bought this contract low thinking it was a good price? Well, we have to deliver on it. And this is where grain marketing gets so confusing, because some guys do a mixture of cash sales, some guys do a mixture of contracts, some guys do solely contracts. Well, then there's us. We use what is called options, which is basically a form of a contract, but it's kind of like a soft contract because we don't necessarily have to make the sale on it. If we know that the grain price is going to go down in the future, a contract right now is an excellent idea. Everybody should be doing contracts, like sell all your grain right now. But here's the problem. We don't know what the grain market is going to do. What if we lock in a contract for in the future and the price goes from $4.46 up to $7? We have to deliver for $4.46. So this is where grain marketing gets difficult, and this is why we use Kristen. Kristen works for EverAg, which is the actual marketing service company themselves, and she has helped us get into a 42% sold position on corn and a 17% sold position on soybeans. So multiplied by our average production history on each of those, we have priced 82,000 bushels of corn and 9,500 bushels of soybeans. Now, as much as I'd like to say that our marketing services through EverAg are the most incredibly complex, sophisticated things in the world. Now, don't get me wrong, marketing is complex and sophisticated in and of itself, but EverAg truly breaks it down to a third grade level for me to easily understand, and they take one approach. They are not trying to have us hit home runs and just absolutely always be getting the highest prices all the time. They want us to look at, hey, what is your actual cost of production? How much money do you actually need to make? And what kind of profit are you aiming for? And once we get to that level, they just sit there and they just keep poking you in the side, poking you in the side, poking you in the side. Hey, we think you should make some sales, because they want us to win through base hits, not home runs. On the 82,000 bushels of corn that we have priced so far, we have a $4.91 position on it, which is 45 cents better than the $4.46 December future price. And then when it comes to the 9,500 bushels of soybeans, we have that at an $11.86, which is 65 cents better than the $11.21 December future price. To help visualize this a little bit better, this chart is the average grain sales that we have made on the 42% that we have sold. The dotted line is the grain sales that we have actually made, and then the solid line on the bottom is the average market price of corn. As we can see, we are well above the line of what the average is, so anytime we can be making sales above average, I'd say that's a pretty good day. Now, even though we are 42% sold on corn and 17% sold on soybeans, let's just run some numbers through. If we take our 82,000 bushels that we have sold at our $4.91 corn price, this brings us to $404,000 of actual sold that we have actual contracts locked in for this price right now. And then this is our unsold bushels at the 446 looking at the future. If we add these two numbers together, that brings us to $911,000 of total revenue for corn. And then if we do the exact same thing for soybeans and add everything together, that brings us up to a total revenue of $1,545,000, which compared to our old total, when we just used the 1121 and the 446, that brings us to $43,000 more. If we apply that to our expected $525,000 loss, that brings us under a $500,000 loss now. So in other words, if I sold all of my grain on contract for a futures price of $446 for corn and $11.21 for beans versus be 42% sold at $491 and 17% sold at $11.86, and then ended up selling the rest on the exact same futures price of $446 and $11.21, I would have made $43,000 more working with Kristen. So as long as Kristen cost me less than $43,000 to work with her, she is an incredible asset to the farm. Now, is Kristen going to be right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But over the next 10 years, is she going to be right more than she's wrong? I believe so, which is actually why we literally built this entire facility, was predicated on the fact that what Kristen was doing is working, and we believe in it that much. We've been working with EverAg for the last 7 years, and we have been overly impressed. So if you are feeling you are not marketing your grain as good as you should be, I would highly, 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 highly recommend EverAg to anybody. I honestly think that is the number one thing anybody can do on their farm, is get with a good marketing team like EverAg. Check out the link in the description if you want to get signed up with them or talk with them. I believe if you do sign up, they will send you a free EverAg hat that has my signature on it as well. But that's down in the description. I believe in it that much. They have helped us out a lot. So the more I can share with the world on how much they have helped us, I'm sure they can help you the exact same way. But you got to find out for yourself. That's just how they have helped us. And this year, leading into another great example. And to touch on the free hat thing, you do have to be a farmer or proof that you are a farmer. But then signing up, it's not a financial commitment. It's just your name, phone number, email, maybe your address. And then EverAg will reach out to you and talk to you, and then they will send you a hat. But hey, that's enough business talk for now. Let's go finish spraying these soybeans. We are on the way down to Uncle Erland's right now, and yes, I do have my seatbelt on. We're not having this thing kick into park again. So far, this module seems like it's working, flipping it around. We're running full throttle right now, and things are working just fine. We have 300 acres left to spray. Talking potentially windy later this afternoon. So if it gets too windy, we're gonna get winded out, but we are going to try to get absolutely as much done as we can today. Something's not right. I'm gonna get out and wiggle some wires and see if I can diagnose something. We put the module that was on the other sprayer on this one, so it's definitely not the module. I have a feeling we have a short in a wire. Maybe someone rubbed through on the coating on the outside and it's touching something it shouldn't and making things not work right. It's just, there is a lot of wires all over this thing. All right, we're gonna go for an adventure. Now, by no means am I a mechanic, but I was able to go to the module box, which is right there, and I could follow the wire harness that comes out of it and snake it through all this stuff. Coming right here off of this Y, we got this, and looky there. I think we have a broken wire, and then that green one in the back, that is rubbed through, showing the copper on the inside. I took those two wires, they were crossed over like this. I pulled them apart, and check this out. Oh, I think we might have just found our problem. If I can keep those two wires separated, well, I guess I'm gonna run it here for a little bit and see if we can get it to work again. But if I can keep those two wires separated, that would at least allow us to finish for the day. And then once we get done, then we'll actually be able to take it into the shop, pull the wires apart, splice them in, fix them the way that they're supposed to. But we might be farmer fixing this today. Well, now it's beeping at me again. I ran for maybe 15 minutes, everything worked just fine. And then now we got the same thing going on. So I just went and inspected my wires. It looks like nothing's touching them, so now it makes me wonder if there's a second spot. Now, I don't know what we did, but Dad came out and helped me. We were just a sitting duck in the middle of the field, but we pulled all the connections apart. Dad had some electrical cleaner. We sprayed in all of those. We traced wires. We wiggled stuff. We looked for any rub points. Didn't find anything. Hopped up in here, and all of a sudden it worked. So anyway, we got Uncle Orland's finished up now, so this 110 acres is done. We have 2 farms left now. We have Zach's and the North Farm, which is about 270 acres combined. Chugga-lugga-lugging down the road. Boogity, 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 we're off to the races. I got my cousin in front of me and his sprayer. It looks like he's putting on some nitrogen with a knife bar, and we're cruising along in ours, spraying for weeds. Reggie, we're getting kind of windy around here. Yeah, we're gonna have to shut down for a little bit and let this wind pass through, and hopefully later this evening it'll die down, and then we'll be able to come back in and spray, and definitely in the morning it should be calm enough. During spraying season, it's usually like 7 a.m. to 10:30 is kind of your window, and then the wind picks up in the afternoon, and then maybe around 6 o'clock in the afternoon it also dies down, and then you get maybe a load or 2 off. But good news is we don't have a lot left because we sprayed most of it in really calm conditions. So the nice thing is, if we have to kind of juggle loads like this, at least we've got most of it done, and we just have 2 fields left. Since we got winded out, I decided I was gonna go help Justin and Roman work in the house for a little bit. We got done with all of our work in there, and looking at the wind map, it is supposed to start settling down about any time now, or back down about 5 miles an hour. So I am going to get everything loaded up on the semi-trailer that we are going to need, and I'm going to drive that out to the sprayer, and hopefully by the time I get out there, wind has settled down, and maybe we'll be able to get a load or 2 off yet tonight. Ah, it looks like there he got everything loaded up for me. Sweet, that usually doesn't happen. Okay, I take that back. Dad, Cooper, and Zach are usually really good about getting things ready, but when it comes to the sprayer stuff, it's pretty common when you roll up there and everything's all out on the ground. You got to get everything rolled up and flipped up and put on the deck. But today, it's done. So I'm saying this is not common. The field we are at is Zach's, and when we look down the rows, it actually looks pretty stinking clean here. But if we look real close, we got some water hemp every now and again. So like this guy, that's the perfect size plant that we want to come in and try to knock out. They're a lot easier to take out when they're this big versus when they get this big. But it looks like you don't see many, but when you're walking along, they definitely pop up more frequently than you think. See? Oh, that's a bean right there. We just so happen to be in the cleanest area of the field, but especially along the road for whatever reason, like from me to the road, a lot more activity there. Oh, there we go. There's another one right there. One little baby weed like that may seem like not a problem at all. Well, one of those little water hemp plants will turn into 100,000 water hemp seeds. And then when you hit it through the combine, all of a sudden you have the world's largest water hemp seeder. So we want to get every single one of those guys because they are a legitimate problem. Got one right there. We got another one right there. And then when we come over here, look at that. Got one there, got one there. Another one right there. Got one right there. Got a little baby one right there poking up. Ooh, that's a big one. They get much bigger than that, they start becoming a really challenge to kill. Got another one beside it as well. This is definitely a prime example of why we need to come out and check our own fields, because right now in the neighborhood, not a lot of guys are spraying beans. I would say I've seen us and one other neighbor out spraying, and nobody else is. Everybody's waiting. But right now is absolute prime time. These weeds can grow so fast. If we wait another week, they could get too tall and we wouldn't wipe them out the first time, and we could have to come back again. But does that mean our neighbors are wrong? Absolutely not. They may have came in and sprayed the first time at a different time a little bit later than us, so they may have a little bit more of a coverage window, because we're going on like 60 days since our first spray, where they may be going on like 40 days. So that's why each and every farm individually is different, and we need to manage them differently. Now, you can't blame me on this one for not filming, like, at all, because I was outlining this field, and that is the waterways here. So I had a lot of outlining, and then I got across the road here, but I ran out of spray, so I got a little bit of outlining left to do. But good news is, we are on the nice back and forth now over here, and I probably got 40 minutes over here. I'm trying to position the sprayer up there, so hopefully in the morning I can just roll up on the road and then I can fill the sprayer, and then I will not have to make a walk. But for tonight, we are going to enjoy this beautiful sunset on our half-mile walk over to the semi. We can't see it yet, but once we pop over this little hill, we can turn left, and then we are parked right over there. We made it back to the truck, and holy cow, I just about fell in a hole. I was watching my life flash before my eyes. We have approximately 220 acres left, so if all goes well, I'm going to try to get started early in the morning, and then hopefully we can get the last, we're gonna have at least 4 loads, 4 and a partial loads left in the sprayer, and then we will be done. So hopefully everything holds out for us and we are able to get done, because then we can just get things cleaned up. We can pull the sprayer into the shop. We can figure out what is going on with that wiring thing, because it's still done it to me a couple times, but it snapped out of it and allowed me to spray, but it just scares you half to death, and you're going along and boom, it just flies into park. See, just look how much better that is. Now I can just drive up to it and get filled up, and the best part is, to leave, I got all that room over there. We got co-op going by. It's okay, I waved at you, you didn't have to wave back at me. Zach's farm is done! What is going on? Oh, this thing's about ready to make me pull my hair out. Just imagine you're driving your car down the road, and then all of a sudden, brakes! And then it's back on, brakes, back on, brakes, back on. And then you're driving for 5 minutes, no problems, brakes! That's what it does to me. Glad I got the seatbelt on. But holy cow, this is annoying. I did manage to get my second load off, and feels like the wind's starting to pick up a little bit. I think it's supposed to die down in just a couple hours. There's just a little stunt here around lunchtime where it's supposed to be kind of breezy. So we're gonna try to get the trailer and stuff over here, and then I have a hypothesis about maybe an area of wires that I can check. I've noticed that when things start beeping at me, if I push this part right here against that, then it would work perfectly fine. But as soon as I would let go, it would keep doing it. So I got pushing around here on the side, and I noticed when I push on the back, then it would also go off. Of course, it's not doing it right now, but it leads me to believe it's maybe something in this wire harness, because this is literally the only thing that moves when I push on that. So there's just a lot of individual wires here. It just takes one little baby nick touching in the wrong spot. So Dad and I are doing some investigating right now, but we have not found anything. Done! D-U-N! We're done! We're done! We're done! Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Ha-ha! All done! All done spraying beans. Whew. Hello there, big wind turbine blade. Holy tamales, that thing is so long. Wow. I brought the sprayer back to the main heated shop. Jordan, the Haggy mechanic, is there. He is going to try to diagnose what in the world is going on with that wiring. And then Dad just brought me back here to the semi, so I got everything all loaded up. We can see in the mirror there, we should have nothing on the ground. We are going to bring this back, and then we're gonna go look at some crops. We made it back! I am currently standing in the spot where we started the video. So before this was all underwater, now that all the water has gone away, let's assess what our damages are. The night before the big flood, we just got done grass seeding all of this, and surprisingly enough, if you look behind me, you can see a lot of it is growing in. We thought all of it was gonna be washed away and we were gonna have to come in and replant all of it. There was a couple spots that did get washed out, and Zach and Cooper did get those replanted now, so we're just gonna have to wait and see how the grass all comes in. But looking behind me, I think it's starting to come in pretty well. Another little issue that we're gonna run into in the future, or potentially that could fill up our ditches, when it flooded, it picked up all the corn stalks that were in the field. So now our ditches are full of corn stalks. And they just keep building up, building up, building up, and these will start to break down, then they'll eventually kind of turn back to dirt. And so, I don't know, maybe they'll disappear, but I think we could maybe have a little bit of a shallowing ditch effect going on, especially the ones that are like flat across that have a lot of corn stalks in them. This one's not too bad, but I know over there, a little ways, They're probably like this deep. Then as for the soybeans themselves, now we just sprayed this field, so I'm not gonna walk out there, but as we can see behind me, this grass is already starting to die. It's turning brown, so what we sprayed is working extremely well. We wanna get rid of the grass, we wanna get rid of the weeds, and we wanna get rid of the volunteer corn. And so right now everything is browning up. It is doing what it should. Once we get a rain on it, then we'll be able to go out there and actually do an assessment. And we also have to wait a few days because, well, it just takes a little while to make it look like you actually killed the stuff you were trying to kill. So you don't know if you get out there too early. But the beans, they're about this tall right now. They're coming along really nice. They are going to start making their own nitrogen from the soil and from the air very soon. So right now they're kind of in the ugly stage. Just kind of they look kind of half dried up. They got a little bit of damage from the stuff we sprayed on them. Just little painted spots that are a little bit of a necrosis or just dead plant material because, well, the stuff we sprayed on them is actually kind of tough on them. But beans are weird because they like it when you're aggressive with them when they're little, and then that makes them stronger. So it's kind of like you got to beat it down to build it up. And so pretty soon here, these beans are gonna get out of the ugly stage. They're gonna start to bush out. And once they bush out, it'll shade everything between the rows, and we don't have to worry about any weeds growing anymore because the sunlight will not hit the soil and allow weeds to grow through. And then they are going to start getting tall. So that's probably gonna be coming over the next couple weeks. But right now, they look kind of ugly. And then welcome to Lake Tabletop. This had water on it not too long ago, but we've gotten a lot of sun since getting all that water, and this corn has absolutely taken off. We are not even close to the 4th of July yet. We are over knee high, so you know what they say, knee high by the 4th of July, I'd say we're doing pretty good. And then just like with the soybeans, when we spray them, it damages them a little bit when they're babies. Well, the corn is the exact same thing. When we sprayed this corn, it was about the size of a pop can, so it has grown so fast. But if we look at these bottom leaves, there's a little bit of a browning going on them. That is a little bit of spray damage. Now, this corn is going to go from knee high to about 8 feet tall over the next 2 weeks. So this stuff is just about ready to get into its steroid cycle, or I call it the steroid cycle, but it's going to get into its nitrogen uptake curve here very soon, and it literally, this stuff overnight is going to be just growing 6 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches, and it'll be this tall in 2 weeks. So being able to look across the fields, we better take a good look now because it's not going to be here for very much longer. And as for flood damage on the farm, most of our ground is pretty rolly, so we don't really get standing water anywhere other than areas that have a creek running through them and it floods out, or a farm like Tabletop. We call it Tabletop because it's flat. And there is a couple little bowls here, so like right behind me, it may be a little hard to tell on camera, but the corn, you can tell there's a spot, a circle, that is definitely shorter. And that's because when it filled up with water, it basically is just like us. If we don't have oxygen, we don't breathe. The corn needs the exact same thing. So when the water table stays on the surface, the soil does not have oxygen in it, and the plant basically starts to suffocate. So we have a little bit of that going on behind us. That is going to have a yield impact on that spot. How bad is it going to be? I don't know. We will know once we get in here with the combine, then we can actually see it on the yield monitor. Now, as for how the farm is doing financially right now, we are currently $927,900 of expenses in. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I have not had any time to sit down and look at the canceled checks coming back in through the farm. So there has been a bunch that has been added on top of that, but I have simply been so busy, I have not had the opportunity to sit down in front of the desk and crunch all those numbers together. So that is going to be coming at a later time, but I do know this. Dad, Cooper, and Zach have been working a ton on the farm, while Roman, Justin, and I have been working on stuff inside of the house, doing the restoration and remodel. So we have not been doing a lot of farm activities, but Dad, Cooper, and Zach have. They ended up going through both of the planters. They got those 100% ready to go for next year now. They've been getting stuff ready with the sprayers and just any odds and ends getting things ready. They have been working on it. So over the last 6 weeks, which is the time period since we got done planting to today, they have put in a total of 810 man hours, which brings our labor bill up another $16,200. So at this point so far, our season expenses are $944,100. Now I know I do have a bunch of stuff that needs to be added in, like I said, so that number is going to jump well over $1 million here very soon, and the farm has made zero income. But with that being said, we got all of our spraying done, so now we just kind of have to sit back and wait a little bit before we can start doing some more stuff in the field, because we need the crops to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more progressed before we can do our next steps. So we're just gonna take it easy. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is all we got for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.